Welcome to This is Jax, a hyper-local podcast from Jacksonville, Florida. Are you thinking about making a move or digging your roots in here in Jacksonville? Maybe you thought about starting a business, potentially running for office, or maybe is Jacksonville just a good place to raise a family? If you find yourself asking these questions, then This is Jax is the podcast for you. Welcome to This is Jax, a hyper-local podcast. We're going to do our best. We're going to bring on successful business owners, the people who drive the cities, share a lot about what makes our city so great. So you can be confident and comfortable. This is a city that you want to call home. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if this is your first time here, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, hit notifications, and leave me a comment. I'd like to hear what you think about the show. What are some topics you want to discuss? Or maybe if you got an idea of a guest that I should be reaching out to, let me know. We'd like to bring more guests on, but of course, right now we're just doing a solo show. I'm really excited about these solo shows. It's kind of a newer thing for me as I'm working on getting deeper in the substance of Jacksonville myself, studying it. So I'm excited. Today's episode, though, we're going to be talking about new developments in downtown Jacksonville. So I talked to a lot of people in Jacksonville, of course, all different variety. My business in real estate, we work with a lot of active duty and veteran Navy. Most of those folks are not from Jacksonville, believe it or not. They got orders here. Some of them decide to stay. Some of them leave. We help them sell their homes so they can take their profit with them and invest it whatever their home state is or wherever they want to go. But others, after they get out of the Navy, they choose to stay. I also talk to a lot of locals that I've met throughout time. I've been here for nearly 20 years. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in the episode. But a common complaint about Downtown Jax, that's what we want to talk about today. Nothing to do. So I hear this a lot. There's nothing to do here. There's not enough food here. There's not enough nightlife here. And I'm not necessarily going to argue against that, but I do want to point out a few things that you might not have thought of. I want to discuss the future of downtown, particularly new development. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff on the way. We're going to get into it here. But if you're planning to sell your home in 2025, you need to start prepping today. Okay. The process of selling your home, it's a 3 to 6 month process. And we're talking, that's from your initial strategy meeting where you sit down with an expert agent in your area, expert real estate broker. You go over the strategy, you choose, who you want to hire to represent you throughout the process. You're signing that agreement with them, and then the ball starts rolling. You've got to prep all the marketing. You've got to prep the house. You've got to get ready for, people coming in and out because, you want a lot of traffic at your house. That's how you're going to get the highest dollar amount. There's time on the market. And then once you go under contract, the average contract day is 30 to 45 days before closing. We looked at some data here, and April of 2024 was when profits peaked. So if we back that up, you have to backdate. That's the closing date data. That is when sellers made the most amount of profit. With April being only a few short months away, now is the time to start prepping for your sale. So if you want to walk away from the closing table with the most money in your pocket, you got to start prepping today. So if you're thinking about selling, head over to rigsgroupfl.com/sell my home, fill out the consult form, and schedule your free real estate strategy meeting today. All right, new developments in downtown Jacksonville. This is kind of the meat of what our episode is today. So people say there's not anything to do. And what I say, is that really true? First of all, for restaurant sakes, I know I've talked about it before, both on this show, in the private circles that I'm a part of. My wife and I know there's so many restaurants that you can find either on Instagram or through Google or Yelp or whatever app you're using these days, just driving around. I hear about so many restaurants. Every time we leave the house, if we wanted to go to a different restaurant, we really could. So we're not even going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about some other things. A lot of times, when I ask people what they're looking for, I hear things about nightlife, and specifically talking about downtown. They say there's not enough nightlife down there, and I'm not really sure what they're looking for, to be honest. I know there's some pretty fancy restaurants, and then there's just average restaurants. There's Bay Street, which is kind of right in the center of downtown on the north side of the river. There you've got Underbelly, Chop House, and then there's a few other restaurants around the corner. Now, Chop House is a really nice restaurant. We're talking, this is a date night restaurant. I just went there for my anniversary. You wear nice clothes, you park in valet, you better be ready to spend a few $100s on your meal. If you want sides and a drink. So it's a classy place. A lot of history in that building. The artwork is beautiful. Old building. Jacksonville's got a lot of history. And so it's great to see these older buildings that have been, they've maintained that facade on the outside. Inside has been refreshed, and most of them in a tasteful way to where they still, you still feel like, even though it's modern and it's updated, still feels like that vintage charm. So I've been here in Jacksonville for like 20 years, and most of the complaints I get is really from the locals. If people, my military crowd, they move here from all different parts. They've got, hey, compared to back home stories, but really locals, and usually people who've never left, or they've only been to tourist places when they do leave. They go to Nashville, they go to Orlando or Miami. So very tourist locations. And then they come home to Jacksonville and they say, oh, there's nothing to do here. I would probably argue there's actually a lot to do here. But first, let's kind of talk about where I'm from, because I've been here for 20 years. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my backstory, a little bit of why I think I don't know, have the ability to give an opinion on it. And then we're going to look into some data of the new developments. Well, I was born in South Florida. It's a small town called Sebastian, about 3 hours south of here. Actually, Sebastian Inlet is like top 10 well-known places. Maybe not, like, it doesn't have the most biggest waves or anything crazy like that, but popular for surfing at the Sebastian Inlet. I've gone in and out of it in my grandpa's fishing boat, and that was treacherous, but great time. That's where I grew up. Today's population there is like 25,000. So you compare that to a population of 1 million, nearly 1 million here in Duval County. Plus, don't forget, you've got the surrounding 5 counties, 6 total here in Northeast Florida, where it's really just a sprawling metropolis. And you can go from downtown to the country, all kind of within the same area. You're talking well over 1 million people in Northeast Florida. But for today's purposes, Duval County, downtown Jacksonville, I think the last census estimates about 989 million people or so. So anyway, after that, you could say I was born in a small town when you say 25,000, and it probably was like 6,000 back then, 30 years ago. So 37 years ago now. I'm almost 40 years old, which is crazy. But I moved to Titusville, which is, about an hour north of there. I grew up watching the space shuttle launch. And then after that, my dad took a job in Columbus, Ohio. So moved to Columbus, Ohio. My dad's from Southwest Ohio, so it was kind of like a get close to home thing for him. But for us, it was a totally different location because I was born and raised in Florida. We were there for a few years, and then we moved back to St. Pete Clearwater. That was like my 9th grade year. So I basically did like half of elementary school and middle school in Columbus, Ohio. Normal place there. Started watching Ohio State Buckeyes, did the 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip, all those kind of things that you do. From there, my grandmother came up. We took a trip up to Buffalo, New York, Niagara Falls, that sort of thing. And then we moved back down to St. Pete Clearwater, which is near Tampa Bay. That was like my 9th grade year. So my whole high school career back over in Tampa. From there, did 1 semester in San Diego, found out that it's very expensive to go to college outside of your state. Nobody taught me this ahead of time, and immediately transferred back to UNF. And then went in the Navy, thought I was going to go back to San Diego, ended up staying in Jacksonville the whole entire time. So I basically am a Jacksonville guy at this point because, more than half of my life I've lived here. I call it home. I did think for a time that when I got out of the Navy, I was going to go back to Tampa, but by that point in time, I owned a house here. I had kids here. I was married. And so you would say I was rooted here, right? I was dug in to Jacksonville. And I fell in love with the place, really. We talk about it a lot on the show. It was a slow burn to get there, but I got there. And so here we are. So going back to, that's kind of my story. And so I've traveled the world. I've spent tons of time in Orlando and Tampa, been to Miami, gone on the cruises to the Bahamas, Key West, all over Florida, right back and forth, Pensacola, through Tallahassee. So I know what I'm talking about a little bit just from 37 years of life experience, as well as kind of working in industries that allow me to travel and kind of get a big picture point of view on things. And then aside from that, my wife was from Illinois. So we not only drove, well, actually, let me back it up. She was in California when I met her. We had a long distance thing, and we drove completely across the country. When she moved here, I flew out, and then we made the drive. We've gone to Vegas several times. I love it out there, by the way. Big tourist town, right? Again, tourist town. And then we came back here. We've driven up to Illinois, where her family's from, made several stops along the way, Memphis, Nashville, Sevierville, all those kind of places. So we've been around a little bit. And what I am kind of asking in return when people are like, there's not enough nightlife, I just say, is that what people really want? Broadway in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been there. It's a great time. Maybe to visit. It's a little trashy. I'm going to be honest. That might surprise some people, and it might offend some people, and I don't really care, but I'm going to tell you it's a little trashy, and take some of the, maybe rougher bars, if you will. Let's take Underbelly. It's not I've spent time there playing some guitar bands and stuff. And, so I've been to Underbelly. It's not like scary or dangerous or anything, but is it the Sunday morning church crowd? It definitely isn't. It's the opposite of that crowd. So if you're saying there needs to be more nightlife in downtown and you're comparing it to someplace like Broadway in Nashville, just take Underbelly's times 20, put 10 on each side of the street and call it done. It's not that you're getting Chop House 20 times over in a different form. You're getting Underbelly. And I'm not knocking Underbelly. What I'm just saying is that's what that is. It's built for tourists. It's built for that entertainment, but it's not where me as a local wants to be every single night, especially as somebody with a family and kids. I might be looking for something a little bit different. I could compare this to 6th Street in Austin, Texas. If you've ever been to Austin, same kind of vibe. There's some really nice restaurants in the area near the convention center, but then the main drag that everybody is excited about and claims about, it's just a bunch of bars, to be honest. And I've spent my fair share of time in bars, so I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, as we're looking to improve our city, as we're looking to attract more industry in our city, we might be looking for something a little bit more. So real estate matters. And I want to talk a little bit about why. Work, play, sleep, right? So what's the downtown focus on residential housing? I often have this conversation with folks. If you want more restaurants downtown, if you want a CVS downtown, if that's open 24 hours, McDonald's, other things, who is going to be shopping there? It's fine that during the day there's things down there, but the city goes to sleep at nighttime, really at 7 p.m., 6 p.m. And why is that? Because most of the people who work downtown travel to the suburbs to live. That's where they live. So think about it yourself. If you're working downtown, you drive 30, 40 minutes back to your house outside of the city. Are you going to get dressed to go to CVS? No, you're going to go to CVS by your house, right? So that's one important thing. We need people to fill those shops and restaurants, or else they don't stay in business. And since we're not a big tourist town, we're not going to necessarily have that sustainment. So I've always been a big believer in we need more residential developments in and near downtown if we want to see the shops and the infrastructure, right, grow down there. So we need people to fill the shops. So what are the primary industries of Jacksonville? Let's kind of look at them. So according to jacksonville.gov, Jacksonville has one of the most diversified industry bases in Florida. That's a good point right there, which makes the economy more resilient to ups and downs in any one sector than other metropolitan areas in Florida. What it's saying there really is, and then there's parentheses right here. We're still in the quote, that are generally dependent on retail and tourism related industries. So Jacksonville is not based on tourism industries. Pros and cons. People who live here say, hey, I want more nightlife. I want more entertainment. Okay, well, we're not a big tourist town, so we don't have much of that. But at the same time, as the economy has its ups and downs, like I was in Tampa, then when they built Channelside, and it was this big thing, and the cruise ships would park there, and it had, bowling alley, like Splitsville was a super cool bowling alley. Can you believe it was like $1 Miller Lights back then? That was crazy. And I wish we could go back to that, honestly. But looking back, those were all great places. I went down there a few years after we had, a pretty rough economy, the recession, the Great Recession of the early 2000s. Every single one of those businesses went out of business. They tore half of Channelside down already to make parking lots and kind of redevelop it. And it was brand new in the very early 2000s. So because it was based on tourism industry, it didn't stand up to a weak economy, where Jacksonville's economy is a little bit more resilient because it's steady. So what are our industries? Advanced manufacturing, aviation and aerospace, finance and insurance, headquarters, information technologies, life science, and logistics and distribution. These are the existing strong cluster of companies, and also where the potential growth is for Jacksonville. So if we're going to be putting money, taxpayer money, and also public and private money into the economy, into developments, we need to be able to support the individuals who work at those places. We need to be able to support those businesses. So if we see development in the area of nightlife or food and dining and entertainment, it should be focused on those individuals who have that lifestyle here in Jacksonville. Residential real estate downtown. There isn't much, but soon we'll be changing with the announcement of several new developments. So today I want to talk a little bit about River's Edge, life on the St. John's. Studies show that the average person knows 3 to 5 people who will move within the next 12 months. So do you know someone from work, school, or your family that is planning to make a move in 2025 that I need to be speaking with right now? May 21st, 2025, I'm hosting my annual VIP dinner. This is going to be a legit dinner. You don't want to miss this. Here's how you can ensure your attendance. 1, send me 2 referrals from now until May 15th, 2025. That's how easy it is. 3 to 5 people. I just want to be introduced to 2 of them. To get invited to this dinner, referrals must close on the sale or purchase, and the closing date must be before the dinner. Super simple. Dinner is a formal event you don't want to miss. Email those referrals to nate@riggsgroupfl.com. All right, River's Edge, life on the St. John's. This is a pretty cool project. I'm actually going to do some screen sharing here. So if you're on YouTube, you'll get to see it. But if you're just listening out there, maybe in your car or at home, wherever you're at, I'll do my best to do it. So according to their website, River's Edge is the most exciting new development in Jacksonville in partnership with the city of Jacksonville. Preston Hollow Community Capital maintains a mission to transform the south bank of the St. John's into a world-class destination for shoppers, diners, boaters, young professionals, and the community at large. All right, so this is a really cool project that I'm pretty excited about, and I'm going to jump into a little bit here. The best place to find information about this project, and by the way, there's several projects, investdtjacks, like downtownjacks.com. So investdtjacks.com. And if we look at that site really quick, we can see right here. Well, first, we're looking at the River's Edge site. This place is going to be incredible. We're going to talk about this a little bit. Welcome to River's Edge, the new heart and soul of downtown Jacksonville. Is turning a South Bank blank canvas into a stunning masterpiece. That's what it shows on their website. This is riversedgejacks.com. And right away, there's like a rendering here. It's got some artwork. There's like dolphins and stuff. It's right on the river. This is a really cool spot. And where it is, it's on the South Bank. So if you know Jacksonville, it is directly across from the stadium. If you're looking at my screen here, you're watching on YouTube, you can see this here. And the important thing to see here is I'm kind of circling it. It's in the center of the screen. But what's neat about this isn't just some idea. A lot of times it's like, hey, we're going to build this thing downtown. We're going to build this thing for the community. And we get this artwork and we get these renderings. And then it never exists. It's just a grass field. This area is over 30 acres. It's been a grass field for over 20 years. It's on the south side of the river, directly across from the whole sports complex. You've got Everbank Field, the practice area, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, Five-Star Veterans Memorial Arena, Daly's Place. And there's a lot of projects on the north bank of the river, but today we're talking about this one project. And we can see on Google Earth, you already see the roads and stuff going in. So it's not just some pipe dream of a rendering or what could be. It's actually there. There's money involved. There's permits involved. The process has started. 34 plus acres, 750 plus Class A multifamily units. We're having hotels, luxury condo units, over 200 of them, 125 slip marina. That's one thing we don't have as much of, I believe, in Jacksonville is the boating. Like, growing up in Tampa, St. Pete area, boating was just incredible. And we don't have as much of it here. So I'm excited to see that come. And then they're adding more than a mile to the river walking trails. If you scroll on their website, there's stuff about a park, Central Park, a Northwest Park, Marshfront Park, and a fitness park. 4 parks they're put in. What is there to do in Jacksonville? Well, here's 4 outdoor activities, right? There's going to be art down there. Heart of the park. What's this? Some artistry, energy, interactive parts will be part of the Northwest Park. So really exciting. And we can click around on that a little bit. But what I wanted to show was this website right here, Invest DT Jax. If you're looking on video, you'll see this, but for those listening, this is a map of Jacksonville. When we look at it, there's literally dots everywhere, and it's interactive, so you can move around here. All the orange dots on the screen when you look at this are things that are under construction. So those aren't just proposed, but they're under construction. And actually, when we look at the proposed, there's only a few. But if we look at recently completed or under construction, I mean, there's a ton of stuff to do. So if you're looking for something to do, this is a great place. If you're looking for developments, where am I going to live? If you're thinking, am I going to bring my family to Jacksonville? Where am I going to live? This is a great resource for it. And if we click on River's Edge, we see right here, it's 30 acres along the riverfront, 950 residential units, 147 hotel rooms, 200,000 square foot of office space. So this is a place to attract businesses, to attract commerce. 134,000 square foot of retail. These are your shops, right? And 125 slip marina. So, excuse me. And then it's also going to include more than 4 acres of public park. This is a huge mixed use site. This is only one of the developments that's going on downtown. And I just told you the map shows several. So it is coming to Jacksonville. Jacksonville takes its time in development to a fault, but it's a good thing because a lot of projects in Jacksonville are successful. The investment here, $693 million. So that's another thing to keep in mind when people are like, there's nothing going on. Well, who's going to pay for it? That's somebody is investing $693 million. They have to be able to recoup that money. I don't have $693 million. And anybody who does, you can guarantee that they want a return on their investment. And this means they want to sell the units that they build. They want to lease the hotel out to someone like, Hyatt or, Hilton or whatever hotel chain is going to step up and take that lease for that building. You want food and dining. You want to fill those spaces. And then going over to one more thing I do want to talk about. If we look at jacksonville.gov and actually it was right here on Jack's Daily Record, they had an article about it. And I'll have all these links in below so you can get these later. You don't have to try to write them down or anything. But basically the city is putting up $98 million into this program, and they're expecting $130 million in taxes returned. So what that means is they're going to give a rebate. I'm going to read it right here. $98 million grant by the city will come in the form of a 75% rebate on property taxes that will be generated by the development. The expectation is generating $130 million throughout the process of development. So that's a revenue of $32 million there. Then after, they'll get continued ad valorem. So a project like this not only attracts residents and commerce, but it also provides revenue to the city in the form of ad valorem property taxes, which they can turn around and invest in other areas. This River's Edge thing looks really exciting. And as I said, it's one of many. I think we might cover more and more developments and how they're going to better the city. I'm excited about this, and contrasting it to the beginning of the show when I was speaking about, the touristing stuff. I love hearing about the parks. I love hearing about the opportunity for more shops and restaurants to come. I love hearing about more places to stay, as I have family that live out of the area and they want to fly into town, and they want, they're using their vacation time to come visit most of the time. And so instead of them just having to stay at the freeway side hotel, being able to stay at some place like this where it's got everything they need and it's on the river and it has the scenery, that's going to be really exciting. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that. It's exciting for everybody. With this being on the south bank of the river, you can run ferries back and forth across for concerts and for football games. And, not to mention the brand new stadium updates are going to be visible from this side. So a whole bunch of exciting things. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to necessarily argue that there's nothing to do downtown, but I do want to point out, what are our expectations? What are we looking for? What does the future have? And I think that that's a really shallow complaint about our city. I think if you look a little bit deeper, all I had to do was some Googling what developments are coming up. You'll find these pages. They're going to be in the show notes. You can go look for yourself, look at the different developments, because the developments include on the development page, it's not just residential stuff. That's what I'm interested in, because I know that brings everything else. But if you're like, what restaurants are coming? What entertainment? Is there a new concert venue? Is there a new movie theater? Anything? A lot of that stuff is right there on the development page. So I encourage you to check it out, and, shoot me an email. Let me know, is there a development you're excited about in the city that we should be talking about? Or do you have questions on things? I want to hear them. You can always reach me. So whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're dug into Jax, I'd like an opportunity for you to come on the show. Or if you know someone that you think is a great fit, I want to hear from you. So the best way to reach me, just email me, Nate@riggsgroupfl.com. Thank you for tuning in to this week's This Is Jax podcast.